Huge series coming up. India versus England here in England. It's hopefully it'll be better.
Conditions.
Yeah, exactly. If it's like this, then India will be 107 all out like they were at Lord's about 7 years back in 2018. But setting it up, the author of Test Cricket, Tim Wigmore, a lot of you have read his works, cricket writer for The Telegraph. We want to set this up. Does India have a chance? Transition on. Can this Indian side be competitive against England in England? No Kohli, no Rohit. Tim, first thoughts, are you giving India a chance to be competitive?
Well, I told you earlier and you were happy. So my prediction is 3-2 to England, which I think that kind of made you feel optimistic.
I was surprised.
So, yeah.
I was surprised.
Purely because I think England's bowling is pretty good. I don't think it's going to scare India too much. We saw Zimbabwe batted pretty well against England. There's injury concerns with Jofra Archer's probably not going to play at all. There's kind of Gus Atkinson, even he's pulled out of this ODI series.
So Jofra, you think will not?
I'd be surprised. Well, Jofra plays at one test in absolute best case scenario, absolute best case. I think there's Mark Wood as well. So there's quite a lot of uncertainty with England's attack. I think India will go very hard on Shoaib Bashir. I know he got 9 wickets against Zimbabwe, but this is going to be a step up for him. So I think England are favourites, but I think there's vulnerabilities there, and India do have a shot.
No Kohli? What was the first reaction when he retired?
Well, I think actually for a lot, the first reaction was not even like a cricketing one. It was people were sad not to be seeing him, and the sense of the spectacle was a little bit less without Kohli in Test matches. We've got to be honest about that. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it is because cricket is not as popular in England as it is in India, and Kohli is a name that resonates. To the armchair fan who just follows it occasionally, they'll all know Kohli. So there is certainly a bit of a loss to the series. But that said, I think the new look India will be, will actually the new bats will be very hungry, and Kohli, I think he averaged 31 in the last 5 years in Test cricket. So actually, new bats potentially can do it at least as well as that. I think it will be. It's obviously. I think there was a feeling we probably thought Rohit was going to retire, and this might be Kohli's last series. I think that was probably the prediction. So to have them both missing was a bit of a surprise. But I don't think anyone in England. A few generations ago, England have thought, India are missing these big players. They'll be weaker now. No one is kind of that naive in England now. They know whoever comes in is going to be seriously good as well.
I was having a chat with Kuldeep, and he said, look, the difference between other teams and England is against England, you have to be continuously switched on because they'll attack you. Some of the other teams will go defensive, and you have your time. But against England, a half an hour patch, and 70, 80 runs can be scored. That's the new England with Bazball. You think that's England's strength?
Well, that's very much how England have sought to play under Bazball, but we saw in India that went really, really wrong. Actually, they lost 4-1. I remember I talked to Ashwin actually in the book about the England's approach, and he actually said, basically, I really like the approach, but he thought there was a bit of inexperience, a bit of naivety at times in terms of when England were already on top, then they could have gone down the gears rather than keep on going and give India a chance back into the game. You think of that, the Joe route, his ramp against Bumrah, when India looked like Ashwin might be cut out of that test, for example. I think since then England are trying to refine it a little bit. So they're still basically a very attacking batting team, but there's a little bit more sense of maybe England can kind of have a session or two now where they don't go full throttle. That's still the sense. But yeah, they'll go very hard at India and they'll create chances. And as long as it doesn't rain like this, we probably won't see too many fifth days.
I think what you just said, about England refining the plan. I think Joe Root, up to a point during Bazball, was trying to do Bazball exactly like the way Hammer and Tongs ball won. But then he realized that this is not his game and he's much better being Joe Root. And I think this is the new Joe Root that we are scared of. That it's a refined version of what so-called Bazball. But India is worried about Joe Root and the kind of batting. It's a very strong batting attack.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, it's probably before COVID of the kind of the Fab Four we talk about, which is Virat Kohli, Kane Williamson, Steve Smith and Root. Root is probably kind of comfortably at the bottom of that list because he'd gone a few years without getting a century and, stagnating and stuff. But actually, last 4 or 5 years, he's been absolutely outstanding, both at the end of his captaincy and under Bazball. He's been really great under Bazball as well. And, he's kind of going up that mini list. I think there was in Jared Kimber's book, which rates the sort of top batter of all time. I think he has Root as number 2 amongst the Fab Four, with only Steve Smith ahead of him, which done 4 or 5 years ago, Root might have been at the bottom of that list. No, the England's batting. I mean, look for with Jamie Smith at 7. You know, he is a very, very good player as well. Obviously, he didn't play against India last time, so that will be a difference. I think last time in India, England had Ben Foakes at 7. Now Ben Foakes is a very good batsman, but he's quite a kind of classical orthodox batsman, and therefore when he was batting with the tail, he, you know, as he's been quite frank about, that's not his strength. He's almost, you know, plays counter cricket, he bats at number 5 and does very well. But yeah, so England I think have with Smith at 7, they've got a better way of managing the tail. And the other thing that's probably changing since they were last playing India is, in terms of with the batting actually, is their bowlers now, their batting is really improved. So the guys they have lower down, you have Atkinson, who's got a Test century. They have Bryden Cast, who's
very, very impressive.
Matthew Potts potentially, and Chris Woakes, of course, who's got a Test century against India at Lords. So England, you might have a situation where England are batting very, 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 very deep, and I think that will be a challenge for India, how to get rid of the tail, and that which goes into our chat, I think, just off air with Kuldeep Yadav.
I was about to ask that.
Wrist spin, well, actually, there's a few things that wrist spin. High quality wrist spin's done very well against Bazball. It's been a real tool that has done really, really well. So I think, you know, India should be definitely looking to play Kohli.
Even in Leeds?
Well, I mean, Jack Leach got 5 wickets at Leeds a few years ago. I just think, I mean, you never know. If it's like this, it's difficult to play Kohli realistically, because that was a mistake at Lords 7 years ago.
And we made this mistake last year during the WTC final. Went with Cloud, dropped Ashwin, got hammered. So
yeah, exactly. So it goes the other way. I think wrist spin is a real asset against England. I think Kohli is a terrific bowler, and he's a great bowler anyway. But the fact that left arm wrist spins are so rare is kind of, to prepare for that is a real challenge. And again, you might have with Jamie Smith, who was a terrific player. He's probably never faced left arm wrist. He's probably barely faced left arm wrist spin, and let alone anyone remotely on Kuldeep's level. So someone like him, you know, actually Kuldeep could kind of make a huge impact early on. So I'd definitely be looking to have him, especially as a kind of weapon against the tail. I think India's problem in Australia is, again, from the outside, it was a bit of a kind of compromised team by the end. So they had these 3 all-rounders. They had Washington, Jadeja and Reddy, and there were actually probably 3 almost batting all-rounders.
Yeah, so nobody bowled.
Yeah, so you end up having a team where you only have 3 frontline bowlers and you're kind of a little bit bits and pieces almost. So I think picking a kind of 4 frontline bowlers would be really essential, and then maybe say Jadeja is there, you know, as a bat, you know, he justifies his spot as a batsman. But I think Kohli does offer you something different to Jadeja, so I think that's really important. And obviously, you know, England will be petrified if Bumrah plays 4 or 5 tests. You know, that's the question.
He won't play more than 3 for sure, maybe 4 maximum. But Bumrah, thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I mean, unbelievable bowler and a joy to watch. And yeah, I kind of look back because we had him. He came in 2018. At that point, he hadn't actually played a test in India yet, which is because he played all these tests away from home early on against tough opponents, and it was completely apparent so early what a special bowler he is. And I suppose the other what might help India give Bumrah an extra test is if you do get these very accelerated matches, you know, tests over in 3 days.
Yes,
that
then you give that
extra.
So
there's these you make these big plans and stuff, and that's maybe where England, as much as they have this approach, which I think is basically the right approach, there'll be times when they think, actually, if they can make Bumrah bowl another spell, that's potentially not just helping the game there, but that actually might be ruling out of the bat at the next test. So that those are these little battles within the series. I do think India will make some runs this series, though. I think, you know, you obviously Jasprit, you have Pant, Rahul, Gill, you have very good players there, and I don't think, you know, to be honest, I think the Australian attack that India just faced is a better attack than what England will throw at them.
Okay, so once again, your prediction 3-2?
3-2 to England. I think it'll be a terrific series, and yeah, I think England will probably just have enough, especially if Bumrah, you know, only plays 3 tests like you're saying. But yeah, it could go either way, and yeah, it needs 2 days of this weather, otherwise we're not going to have draws. So
we will have a lot of Tim Wigmore.
What's your prediction?
I think it's 4-1 England at this point.
I'm not allowing you to predict a draw.
4-1? No draw. No. I mean, definitely not with these 2 teams. But 4-1, if it's 3-2, we'll take it. With a team in transition and no Kohli, no Rohit coming into Shubman as a new captain, Pant as VC, we will take it. If you give anyone in India at this point, say 3-2, happy to. Okay, but one thing I can tell you, Tim Wigmore will be there in Leeds, in Birmingham, Lords, Manchester, and of course the Oval. You will read his stuff for the Telegraph, but more importantly, we will have him share his expertise. I've requested him to share his expertise for Revsportz, which he's kindly agreed, and we will have a lot of Tim Wigmore. But for that, trust you me, once again I'm plugging this. Read his books. Some excellent erudite cricket writing there. Test Cricket, a History by Tim Wigmore. I'm reading it at the moment. You do as well. Tim, thank you very much for joining me.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.